Welcome to the Prepare to Repair show. I am your host, Steve Suarez, and joining me on today's show, we have the mostest spectacular, and I speak good English, real estate agent in the world, Debbie Luscombe. Insurance, real estate. Okay. It's Monday. Hello, everybody. 10 seconds in, and it's already going sideways. I am insurance agent, Debbie Luscombe. And I have Bob Ganch, who is with Performance Sales, who's going to talk to us about his product that he brought by my shop called Flood Stop. And for those of you who want to check that out, check out our website, rjgrandplumbing.com or prepare number 2 repair.com, and you can check out a video of this particular product. And coming up, and you're going to find it's just as mind-blowing and as awesome as I did. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and plus other products that he has as well. On our What's for Lunch segment, we have Mr. Mike Marchetti, who is the owner of Black Dog Vinyl Cafe in Plainfield. We will also have an exciting announcement coming up today that I want to make. It's huge as far as the show. I'm pretty excited about it, but I want to introduce. I want to say hi to both Debbie and Bob. Thank you guys for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you guys you're helping me out. I mean, this is just great talking about a lot of the things here that people need to know about. And I know Debbie's kind of nervous, but you know what? She's duck on a pond. She looks graceful, and everything's all good underneath. Feet are moving a mile a minute, but you're doing great. Now, I wanted to start off with Deb because Debbie hates water. She has told me as such. She doesn't have an ice maker in her house and hates water. What did I say?
I hate water.
Okay, all right, I want to make sure I'm not making mistakes. So, you hate water. And funny about that, because the very thing that you hate as far as ice maker and having leaks and all that other stuff, his product, Bob's product here, helps with. I mean, it's a really good flood prevention product that is, I think, can help out a lot of people and minimize the amount of damage that can happen from any kind of water issues. So now, what I wanted to talk to you about, Deb, in addition to water and the problems that come along with that, is being properly insured. That is one thing that I think, first and foremost, before you get in anything else of what could happen, you need to start right off in the beginning of being properly insured.
Yes.
Because if you don't have everything going there, you're going to find out when something happens just where you are. Mm-hmm. And that's not when you want to find out.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's right off the bat, you need to make sure that you sit down with someone such as yourself. Hopefully it would be you over in Homer Glen.
That's right.
That they would contact you to be able to, you are one of your excellent staff over there. Everybody's great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And to be able to sit down and go through your policy to make sure that you have everything that you need to be prepared.
Right. Come claim time, it's too late.
Oh, you can't do anything. I mean, At that point, you're already done.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I've seen people who, and I've seen them online, who are talking about the pricing on it. Oh, I don't want to go through such and such. They're too expensive. Now, I don't want to find out what the difference in pricing is after I have a flooded basement, after I have a fire. I want to know that I'm taken care of from a reputable company, from reputable people.
Yes.
And I found that out when my wife had a collision, and you were there, your staff, and got everything taken care of from start to finish. That's why I'm just, I love you guys. You guys are great.
Well, thank you.
So
we were happy that she wasn't hurt. So
yeah, you would think it was only in a parking lot. It was in a strip mall parking lot, and someone ran a stop sign, broadsided her.
Yeah.
And the amount of damage that was done to the vehicle, and I mean, she was fine, but it's just the nightmare that comes along afterwards that you have to deal with is the frustrating part. But if you have your ducks in a row to begin with, it makes anything that subsequently happens after that, such as, collision or any kind of accident that happens at the house, it's all, you just make a phone call, you're dealing with the frustration, but it makes it go a lot smoother, I believe, at least in my opinion, because going after the fact, no, it's, you're at the mercy. I mean,
yes.
And then you have to relay the bad news. Mm-hmm. It's not something you want to do.
No. Thank you.
So you don't want to do that. You want to be able to, you want to be able to relay good news. Okay, here's how we're going to do it, how you're going to take care of it, how this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. But when you have to ask those hard questions.
Right.
So what would you say the most common claims are, or what would you say, not claims, let me back up. What would you say when somebody comes in to see you, what is the biggest thing that you find on their policies? Like say if they're coming in to see you and they're bringing in where they're at another location or another carrier, and they bring it over to you, what is the one thing that you see that is probably the most common problem that people have?
Well, some people definitely are underinsured. They haven't really ever gone over it with their agent, their current agent.
Okay.
And like I had said, and as you know, because you're my client, that we set these expectations where you have to come in, or we need to have a conversation at least once a year to review everything. We just did that with you and added, there was some things that were missing because you've grown so fast, and during COVID, people haven't been able to see each other. So we just updated all of your policies as well.
Right.
The worst thing that we actually saw was somebody had a condo policy, and they actually should have had a homeowner policy. I mean, can you imagine if something would have happened there? And they were totally insured wrong.
Really? Now, were they living in a house and they had a condo policy?
It's like condos, they're attached to other
correct,
units right next door. It was actually you had to have a homeowner's policy. It wasn't the association insured the building.
Okay.
So they only had coverage for their contents. So I mean that was awful. So we helped them out with that. So
yeah, and that's stuff that again, if you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I always say this, and it sounds, I mean, when you hear me say it, it sounds stupid, but if you actually listen to it, as a person who is buying something, you don't know enough to know what you don't know.
Right.
So you don't know what to ask. That's when you get to a professional to say, hey, is this working? Mm-hmm. And you want to be with someone that you trust that's going to give you the right information.
Right.
And on this show, I try to give information that says, this is what's out there. This is what I would recommend to follow, having, guests on here such as you and Bob that give information that, okay, now go and use it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to buy from me. They don't have to go through you. They don't have to. We'd like them to, but they don't have to. But you're getting information that you can go and ask people that, hey, what about this? Hey, what about? And if you get the answers that you like and they say, hey, this is what it works. This is, this would work for me, or yes, they were right. Or if they're giving you answers that you're not really feeling comfortable with, then it may be time to make a change.
Yeah.
So, especially if you're getting information that's going to help you.
So in this case, Deb, with having only their property insured in this home, so if there was a flood above them or a fire above them or next to them, all their walls and interior materials, none of that have been covered?
No. Because they were misinformed. They thought, when you buy a unit like that, you think it's a condo. Well, it wasn't a condo. It's a townhome where you actually have to insure the structure as if it were a single-family home, even though it has a common wall.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
We have to be really careful with that. So ever since that happened, we always, even call the association, have more conversations with the real estate agent. So, yeah, that could have been very scary.
Well, that also goes with, even just with water. If you're in a condo and you have a washing or laundry facilities in your unit and something fails, that water is, if you're on the third floor,
It always goes down.
It's hitting second or second, first floor, and if there's a garden unit, I mean, however way it's set up, that depending on the amount of water that came down, it could be a significant amount of damage, especially if, say, it happens before you leave or after you leave for work, and everybody's gone, and that's going for 8 hours. Say that washing machine hose burst,
right?
And that's where
and a lot of people they'll turn on their dishwasher or their washer machine and then leave.
Right.
Go to work. I am, just as bad as everybody else doing that.
Right.
So,
well, that's where if everyone was looking on our website, they checked out this flood stop that Bob brought to my attention. This particular product, with the sensors that it has, it turns off the water. You want to go into it a little bit?
Well, absolutely. Like in this case, if the water heater or the washing machine above my unit failed and I'm not home and that homeowner's not home, there's thousands and thousands of gallons of water that's going to be poured throughout that day. And there's nothing there to stop that water. There's nobody there.
The claim is going to be huge.
The claim is going to be huge. And not only the claim for the material lost and the rebuilding of everything, think about where that person has to go to live for the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay that hotel bill? So, again, that's more added to the insurance if they're covered properly.
And that would be considered a chargeable loss because it didn't happen from a weather event.
Oh.
So you have a surcharge on your policy.
Wow. Yeah, see, that's why the reason why I set that up was I said if you say, like I said, you ran a dishwasher, or say something happened just after you left for work and everybody else in the building's gone, that could be a full 8 hours of water just running.
Oh, makes my skin crawl just thinking about it.
Well, I mean, I had a customer who he went out of town, and he lived in Homewood. He went out of town, and he had made a call into the police and the fire department to do a check on his house. When he was leaving, he said he was leaving, maybe do a drive-by, make sure everything is all good. Luckily, they did. Well, apparently his boiler went out, and one of his pipes froze. It was one up on the main level. I think it was upstairs, second floor blew, and main floor blew. And water was running out of this house through the door, and where the floor met the wall, because it was a wood frame. Mm-hmm. Literally, you saw a sheet of ice along the whole, where the floor would be at the porch, out the door. It's one big icicle. Oh, boy. It was absolutely a nightmare for them. And I guess if he had that particular valve, it would have shut off his main water service, because none of the damage happened in the basement or anything at the main water service. So that would have been able to shut that off, at least to the point where minimize that damage. And that house was an older house. I think it was built in the 1920s. So what happened with that? Well, once you have that damage, and now they go in to start rebuilding, you run into every nice little product that they used in the 20s when they built houses. Mm-hmm. You run into the lead. You run into the asbestos. And all that had to be abated before anything was done. So like you said, 120 days. He was almost out a full year. It was almost taken down to this. It was taken down to the studs on the first floor, part of the way up on the second floor, and everything was redone. It was just a complete nightmare.
Right.
And I mean, and that's why, like, when I saw this this valve here, I thought, okay, well, first off, I got to have you on to talk about this, because this product right here is, and I could think of a ton of uses for it just from some of the stuff I've seen. And I know when I was talking to Deb last time when she was on the show, she says, I don't like water. I don't like, I'm like, okay, this is something I think that she would.
My husband's going to be so happy because now we can have an ice maker.
Yeah. Deb refuses to have any ice makers in her house currently at this point, because she knows what can go wrong.
Yeah. I
mean, it typically in an ice maker, you got a whole hardwood floor. I mean, in a lot of, even though it's a small quarter-inch valve behind there, that's a lot of water that can pour all day long when you don't know about it. Right. With the flood stop, as soon as the first drop of water hits the sensor, that valve is shut off. Right. So the amount of damage that can be done is next to none, because there's no more water coming out of that ice maker once the slightest bit of water hits that sensor. It basically tells the sensor, tells the control box tells the valve, shut me down. Nobody can open that valve back up again until the mess is cleaned up. You got to get everything all cleaned up, fix whatever the problem was, and then you can operate your ice maker again. And the same valve or same type of product can be used not only on the ice makers, but if you think about underneath your sink, a lot of times it has maybe sometimes has nothing to do with the valving. It could be just a P-trap's leaking or something like that.
Right.
Well, the sensor is going to go off and sense that. It may not stop the problem with the stops because it's a P-trap, but at the same time, you've got a problem because it alarms you. It tells you there's something going on. But the biggest culprits are the wash machines and the water heaters.
Right.
Those are probably more than 50% of the claims are made by those two appliances. And you think about those two appliances, you use them every day. In some cases, you could use them 2 and 3 and 4 different times a day. And normally, when these things happen,
I like what you're going with that. We're going to take a quick break because we have Mike Marchetti from Black Dog Vinyl Cafe for our What's for Lunch segment, but we got a lot more to talk about that. I got a lot to ask you about that.
6.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair show. I am your host, Steve Suarez with RJ Graham Plumbing. Joining me on the show is Debbie Luscombe with State Farm Insurance and Bob Gonch with Performance Sales. And joining me on our What's for Lunch segment is Mike Marchetti, owner of Black Dog Vinyl Cafe. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, Steve. How are you guys doing?
I'm happy to hear from you. And I want to thank you for being on the show. And your place is, I just want to tell you, I don't know if anybody hasn't been there, it is an awesome place. You want to give us a little bit of a insight on your place you have over there on Route 59?
Yeah, sure, Steve. Excuse me. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. But yeah, we're a few different things. The name is Black Dog Vinyl Cafe, and so we started out the idea as a record store. We wanted to be a record store, but we wanted to be something more than a record store. And our love of coffee and drinks led us to the idea to combine music, which is a real passion of my wife and I. We go to a lot of live music, a lot of events and things like that. There's always music on in the house when we're home. And we combined it with the cafe, so we brought in baked goods, donuts, muffins, bagels. We do breakfast sandwiches. We do paninis all day long. We serve specialty coffee drinks, hot and cold. We've got drip coffee, hot teas, and we have full bar service, too. And as part of our bar service, we feature all the local breweries from Plainfield, Romeoville, Sherwood, Oswego, and we try and feature as much local product as we can at our cafe. And it starts with the brewers, and with our roasters are one's in Kankakee area, one's in Galena area. So, and they're both family-owned companies. We have Sable Creek Wine, which is the local Plainfield winery. We feature their wine. So we try and keep everything as much Plainfield as we can. If we can't get Plainfield hookups, we go to towns over or as local as we can.
Awesome.
And that's the concept on the cafe end. On the record store end, I've got about 3,000 vinyl albums, new and used. And we've got it all. Every genre, from the 40s to today's music. And we try and cover everything.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm a little bit biased because I was in there, and anybody who saw any of the posts I did on Facebook, and I was actually telling Debbie and Bob here about the score that I picked up, the Leonard Skinner Street Survivor album, and it had a little bit of a history to it, which I thought was kind of cool. And I've always heard about that as when I was younger, that album covers were changed by the record companies when certain things that happen. And this album, this album coming out at the time when Leonard Skinner had the plane crash, then this particular album cover showed the band with like flames behind them. It was reissued by the, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably maybe, being more of a music and record guy, than I am, they reissued the album with just them with a black background because, well, just the timing of the crash and the unfortunate events that happened and the people who were lost in it. So that was discontinued, and to have one that is original, that's pretty, or not original, but it's a used copy, but it's a first run, I believe.
Yeah, it's a first run. We call albums like that Grail albums, kind of like the Holy Grail you're out looking for. And when you come across them, it's a tremendous, really. I mean, they pressed 1 million albums, but only a few thousand had those covers on them. So it becomes pretty unique. And like you said, a great conversation piece. Oh,
I love it. I brought it home and I gave it because my daughter is a vinyl fan. She loves vinyl. And, she's been collecting them. And I usually get her a concert tee and a vinyl album each year. I started the concert tees for, a rock music T-shirts for years, and then I got her the albums in there, and she's got all over. I mean, Prince, Purple Rain, Michael Jackson. She's got Guns N' Roses. She has the Eagles, Leonard Skinner. I mean, just all across the board. And one I'm looking for, and I don't know, have you seen this one over there? Or I don't know if you've run into it. The original Who's Next album?
On the Decca label?
I'm not really sure.
Several. Yeah, so it originally came out on Decca label, and they later signed with MCA and re-released all of their previous albums. Re-released them all, did new pressings of them under MCA's label as opposed to the Decca label. So again, those are other things. When you find the Decca labels, you're always happy to see them come in.
Oh, okay. Now, because the one there, I from what I've heard, is the Who's Next album originally had them in director's chairs. And Keith Moon was in the one that said Who's Next, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
There was a sign underneath them that said not to be taken away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
how rare is that one?
That's pretty rare, but it's out there too. I mean, the Who pressed millions upon millions of albums, so that one is out there a bit more.
I see
it often enough.
Well, if that one comes in, you gotta let me know because I'm looking for that.
I'll put one to the side for you. Absolutely, Steve.
I appreciate that. Now, what are your hours? So if people want to come in there and check out the selection of albums you have, sit down, have a drink, have coffee, have a sandwich.
So we're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. We open up daily, Tuesday through Sunday. Open up at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Wednesday and Thursday close at 7. Sundays we close at 4. So for Fridays and Saturdays, it's kind of a unique situation. We post our closed hours as 8 o'clock, but then we started doing live music. So when we have a live music event, we stay open till it's over. So 10, 10:30, whenever that would be. But if we don't have an event, we still close down at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So we kind of give ourselves, we're a family still, so we kind of give ourselves that flexibility. If we're not having an event, we can get out there and come on home and get ready for the next day. But we have music, and music is one of our featured things along with the album's live music. And if you check our events on our website or our Facebook page, we've got people pretty much every Friday and or Saturday night. We're booked solid through the end of March.
Excellent.
And there's not too many Fridays or Saturdays that will be closed at 8. Most of them will be open late. And local performers, again, we try and give these younger people opportunities to get up on stage and play their music. We got people who do cover songs. We've got people who do originals. They do mixes of the two. So, yeah. So Friday night's kind of fun. You get the question a lot. You have music, and it starts at 7, but it says you close at 8. You only have music for an hour. And you're like, no. We'll go as long as people are here. We're not sending anybody home, but we like to have the back out on our end for the nights we don't have events.
Excellent. Well, it's definitely a place to check out. And what is the website that they could look up your events, and what is the address of where you're located?
Our website is www.blackdogvinylcafe.com, and we have a subscribe button on there. If you hit that, you'll get all of our events sent to you once a month. We don't bombard you with spam, but you'll get a little something from us. We're located on Route 59. Our address is 16108 South Route 59, and we're Suite 112. We're pushed back off the front of the street on Route 59 a little bit. There's a couple buildings in front of us. We're in the same building as Rosati's or La Dolce Vita, a couple of restaurants that people are pretty familiar with. We're just south of Renwick Road.
Fantastic. Well, people are definitely going to want to check that out. Like I said, it's got a good vibe to it, very different, and an awesome time. I appreciate that, and thank you for being on the show, Mike. I'll be stopping in to see you, in the near future, definitely.
We look forward to seeing you, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity to chat.
Hey, no problem. We'll see you again. I want to thank Mike with Black Dog Vinyl Cafe for being on the show. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk more with Deb and
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same.
Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair show. I'm your host, Steve Suarez, and back with Debbie Luscombe with State Farm Insurance and Bob Gonch with Performance Sales. And before we took a lunch break, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Bob.
That's okay. People are cutting me off all the time.
Yeah, Bob's looking at me like, "What? I'm in the middle of this. I got my vibe. I got my groove going." And then you got to come in after a place that's got a really cool setup like that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to follow that one.
Now you'll do all right. And but I was just like I said talking before we went on. We took a break. These valves, and like you were saying, is they shut everything down before, or not before, but just it minimizes the kind of damage. And unless you've had that, like I said, Debbie is afraid of water because she's experienced this. I mean, as an insurance agent and on her end. But I mean, a lot of people who haven't experienced that. Again, when just the heartbreak, it's like, oh my. What do we do now? Well,
a couple of the facts that I wanted to share with you. Over $11 billion a year are insurance claims because of water damage. I mean, that's a big number. So no wonder the insurance agent doesn't want to have anything to do with water. 30% of those claims are due to appliances failure, due to whether it be a water heater, a wash machine, an ice maker. There's a lot of everyday appliances that create this huge dollar problem in insurance claims. And the most common are leaky hoses, water heaters, and wash machines. Those are the most common places. And what's unique about this product and the problem is this doesn't just happen all of a sudden. There's usually some signs ahead of time before you have a full-on catastrophe or full-on flood. The beauty of this sensor that's put on the floor near any place where that water could occur, you're going to see that most cases before you have a full-on flood. Or once you do have a valve, if it does all of a sudden for no reason just burst, there was no previous signs, as soon as that water hits that circuit board, it basically shuts down any more water available to come into the appliance. So then you may have a little bit of water, but you're not going to have a whole bunch of water that's going to create all these insurance claims that just cost everybody time and money and in some cases aggravation of where do you live during all this? I mean, where are you going to stay? And there's so much cost involved in relocating while whatever went wrong gets fixed.
Well, I use that, scenario of, okay, you left for work and this happened. 8 hours of water run. That is a lot of water that's running. Now, bear in mind, like you said, about these valves being used for, say, a water heater, it will shut the water off. But just keep in mind that you're going to have any residual water, if that tank is leaking, that will leach out, but it's not going to be blowing out of there in a rate and continuously running. If you have a floor drain nearby, it'll just, whatever's draining down the tank will drain into the floor drain. and then you should be okay. But a lot of people may get and say, well, if it shuts itself off, what about the water in the tank? It's going to do that. It's going to drain out, but it's going to stop the continuous flow of water that is just going to run and run and run.
And not only that, once that valve shuts off, that water that is left in that tank, you've created a vacuum now in that tank. So there's only going to be a little bit coming out at a time. So it's not even though you may still have 40 gallons of water in there, because you've basically closed the loop on the.
True.
You kind of capped it off to no more air coming in at that point. So it's going to slowly drain. So what is coming out will more than likely make it down that floor drain.
Right.
But at the end of the day, as long as there's no more water coming in, you're going to lose 40 gallons max, maybe 35, depending on. It could be thousands and thousands of gallons if this happens when you're gone.
Absolutely.
And typically when you have a leak when nobody's around, it doubles the cost. Right. It completely makes it so much more expensive when nobody's there to sense it. So the valve is basically pretending like you're home and you know what's going on. Right. It takes care of it because, again, as soon as that water hits that circuit board, shuts the water down.
Bob, can I ask you, as I look at it, do you need one of those for each appliance or just different, that pad?
That's a great question. First of all, the sensors, the circuit board, I like to call it, but it is...
That yellow thing?
Yeah, it's a yellow thing that basically sits on the floor, okay? And once a drip of water hits that shuts the valve down. But you could put one valve, and I've got a plumber buddy of mine who had kind of a unique situation in his house. He put the leak detection system on his water main coming into the home for two reasons. One, it's a vacation home, and he wants to be able to shut the water off completely but when he leaves. So that way, if there's no water coming into his home, no matter where there could be potential leaks, it's at his main. And he ran sensors all the way over to the other side of his home to his mechanical room, which was nearly 100 feet away. And you're allowed to do that. The system where if he wanted to run a circuit board to his mechanical room, he wanted to send another one over to his refrigerator, he wanted to send one to behind a toilet possibly. The circuit, the control box, you're able to piggyback on as many sensors as you want, or you can put one sensor, one control box, one valve at the point of protection you want. But it's a very versatile system where you can run up to 30 sensors off of one control box.
This is something that Steve would have to install for me?
Yeah, we can install. I mean, you can, any plumber, but I mean, we can install it.
So, like, John couldn't do it for me.
It's because of the way it goes on. I think maybe the angle stop ones, I think that would probably be more of a homeowner maybe can tackle something like that. But
certainly.
But when you get onto your type of valves that go on your water main or your washer box, things like that, in your water heater, those will be probably more of that you would, depending on your skill set.
Wow.
If you got a pretty decent skill set, you may be able to do that. But these, because I was looking at the product that he had, the ones that are for your, like maybe attach on your ice maker valve or your underneath your cabinet, your kitchen sink on your angle stops, those may be more of a DIY, depending on the skill level. What do you think?
Yeah, it really depends on your skill level.
Right.
But if you're typically putting it on a water main, that's not something your typical homeowner is going to tackle. Right. Your water heater, probably not, unless they've installed water heaters in the past. Yeah. The dishwasher, absolutely. That's a dishwasher. The wash machine, that's a pretty easy install where you very little tools needed to handle it.
Giving away my work, thanks, buddy.
I'm
I'm kidding.
Well, like you said, it's a pretty versatile system.
Well, we do this show so people can get a lot of information. Right. And I'm a firm believer. If it's in your wheelhouse, by all means, and it's something that you feel comfortable tackling, go ahead and tackle it. If it's something that you need information on, we put this on the website so people can look at it, and you can get a ton of information. And if it's not, we're here to help. I mean, I'd make jokes like that. But I will tell you, though, what I think, like you were getting back to what you said about an ice maker, is there was and I think I spoke to you about this a while back, and I don't know if I mentioned it on the air, but there was an incident that happened in Texas where this lawyer he was getting sick, and he couldn't figure out why. And couldn't figure out what was the problem with him. They found out that he was suffering from poisoning from black mold. And he was a trial lawyer, and he had symptoms the effects that he has is he has short-term memory loss, and he just had to go on disability. Turned out that when they moved the refrigerator, it had a copper line that snapped, and it just kinked to the point where it cracked, and it was dripping, and that had dripped for an extensive period of time, and that mold just overran the house because it had everything that you needed. It had moisture, it had organic material to eat, and it had heat. It was warm. So it just infested the house. They just walked away from the house. They left everything there because nothing was salvageable, and it was just a refrigerator water line that was leaking for a long period of time. That it leaked enough where it was causing a problem, but not enough where it was causing damage where you can see this. And I've run into something similar like that. I was just telling you that a plastic line cracked along the vertical run, not horizontal on the supply line, but it was vertical where it was just given like a fan mist, and you really didn't notice it. You just saw water on the floor. And if they didn't pull that out or they didn't do anything, it could have just eaten away and just kept leaking and leaking. This system right here would have been a tremendous help in that application and providing, like you said, Deb, going through the stuff that you're going through with it, ice makers.
Once again, it makes the hair stand up.
It's peace of mind, and having these products out there, you might as well take advantage of them.
And speaking of peace of mind, there's a couple other things I want to mention about the system, the flood stop system. I like to call them kits because they are. You can buy them individually just for each appliance, whether there's a kit for a water heater, depending on what size piping. There's a kit for a wash machine. There's a kit for an ice maker. There's a kit for a sink. Or you can just buy the valves and branch off. So that's why it's also a system. But a couple things that happen that give you more protection. One, the valve itself. It's a fully automated motorized ball valve that actually actuates itself every 30 days. So basically turns itself on and turns itself off every 30 days to give you peace of mind that it's constantly working and lubricating itself. Because typically when you have a valve in line in a system, if you don't turn it on and off for long periods of time, and hopefully you never have to turn this valve on and off, but if it doesn't, when it actually wants to work, it doesn't work because it's not been used for long periods of time. Mm-hmm. Like you said, water does all kinds of damage. It also does damage when nothing damaging occurs. When you can't shut your valve off to change a water heater because nobody's operated it. So that's one of the other fail safes with the flood stop system. It automatically turns itself on and off. It's not like a quick turn on, a quick turn off. It's a slow open it up a little bit and closes it right away. And the valve's always going to be working for you when you need it. And one of the other kind of cool parts of the system, it also has a little pigtail that you can put into the bottom of the control box, and you can control it, set it up to your Wi-Fi, so you can send an alert text message to your phone, or to, if Steve wanted to put it in Deb's house and he wanted himself to get the text so he could pick up the phone and say, hey, Deb, your flood stop just went off in your basement or in your ice maker. You're okay.
Well, I think we have one of those on our sump pump.
Yeah, it's a battery backup system, yes.
Correct. And this is not a real techie, you got an app thing. It's just set up to where it senses your Wi-Fi, and you can set it up to your phone to receive a text message and say, hey, something went on. Something needs to be fixed. Mm-hmm. So that's another nice little feature, too, that comes with it. And it again, it's just simply plug it in a little wire to the bottom of the control box. And so that's another feature to it. It's also great for properties that have these building automated systems where there's somebody in a mechanical room watching all of the mechanicals throughout a commercial building. It could be a high rise for that matter. So if with these Wi-Fi connections, it can be hooked up to the building maintenance system, and some guy controlling the pumps, controlling the water heaters, controlling the boilers, the air conditionings. The flood stop protection can be controlled in that same mechanical room or building all the automation system location.
It is extremely versatile, and like you said about the valves, people don't touch anything unless they don't touch anything unless it's a problem. And like you said, and I always say this, 95% of plumbing emergencies are really not emergencies. They're an issue that you've walked by and you've ignored, or you just, didn't check. Regular maintenance solves or prevents a lot of problems. But when you have issues, and I'll tell you one thing that happens a lot, and this is what when you brought this to me, I immediately thought, and I don't know how many times you've run into this, Deb, as far as your, as far as claims, I've had it where people they forget to take their hose off their spigots, and they leave it, and they catch it later, and by that time, it froze and it's split inside. And on the frost-free spigots, you have that tube where it would hold water, or water would drain out, but it shuts off way back in the house. Mm-hmm. So what happens is it's fine until come springtime when you go to turn it on. All that water runs out. Well,
we usually have at least one claim like that a year.
So think about it this way. You have the flood stop on there with a sensor underneath that, and somebody goes, and I've had it where people were running water. They're running their hose. They have it going for all day, and what they do is they have their spray head on, so they stop using it. Water's still running in the hose, so it's spraying. They're out there hours on end and doing what they're doing, but they think the water's off. They go down in the basement, and you just have the damage of all this water just been running. If it's an unfinished basement, an unfinished area, you're fine. But if it's a finished basement and ceiling, you're just coming down to just a complete mess. Mm-hmm. And whereas, say you had that valve, and this is where I immediately thought, as soon as it gets that water, it shuts it off. Whatever leaks out of what's ever in the hose. You go to use that hose, this doesn't work. You're going to get irritated and go, what's happening? It says, check me.
Right.
A battery backup system on a sump pump says, check me. The primary system's not working. All this stuff says, check me and clean. There's a problem. Right. And you need, sometimes we need the houses to be a little bit smarter than we are.
Well, out of sight, out of mind. Set it and forget it. And that's that's what homeowners do to plumbing products. I mean, they assume that everything's going to be working all the time until it's not. And then it's when Deb gets the phone call.
Right. Now, is this something that if people had in their house, I know that I've heard, and I don't know if it is true, you'll have to let me know, or you can look into it, whatever. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know if you have a battery backup system on your sump pump system, the insurance companies look favorably on that. But a system such as this, if people had that and they were protecting at various points, would this be something that
this isn't a new product to me, so I definitely have to check into it. I haven't heard of that. Mm-hmm. As far as a sump pump, if you don't have the battery backup, you can't purchase that extra coverage.
Okay.
That's the way they are. But, it makes sense that, they would
anything that minimizes risk, I would believe.
Exactly.
So,
Deb, I have been told by people in the industry that have been kind of really brainstorming about this product and really marketing it and spending a lot of time on it. There are insurance companies that do offer homeowners credit for applying flood stop products in their homes. I'm not saying all of them do. I'm not sure if your companies do, but I have been told there are some for sure. So it is something you may want to look into.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you know what? It's something to ask about, because if it is something that is going to minimize damage, property loss, just aggravation, it's definitely something. And it's something that is relatively straightforward to put on. It's not a huge expense. It's not an expensive product. For the price that it costs for the product and labor, it's worth its weight. Seriously. I think
if you're going to get a credit on your insurance to help offset that cost, if I was an insurance company, I'd want these all over everybody's homes. Right.
And not because you worked. I just looked at it and I thought they made sense. Right. I've seen some stuff out there that they say, oh, well, this will work, this and that. I look at it and I'm like, all right.
There is a lot of products on the market that some are just water alarms.
Yeah.
Some actually do some operations like this where they shut off the water. Some are very expensive systems that go on your main water line, and from what I'm told, pretty hard to get, but are very expensive. This is a pretty inexpensive system that a typical homeowner for less than 50 cents a day can protect everything in their home, it's pretty inexpensive. The flood stop systems kind of it checks all the boxes. The fact that the valve opens and closes by itself. The fact that you can add on multiple sensors throughout the whole home with one control box. One thing I also didn't mention is battery powered. You plug it into a regular 110 outlet. You don't need any special GFCI outlets. It's just a regular 110 outlet because it's all low voltage. But if you don't have any power, say an older home that doesn't have power in the mechanical room where the water heater is, it runs off of 4 AA batteries, and you replace it once a year just like you would your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors. So when you change those, you change the batteries in your flood stop.
Nice.
But if you do lose power, the batteries become a battery backup system. So even if power's out for 10 hours, you're still covered by the batteries in the unit.
It's not a bad deal. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, Deb, over in Homer Glen, and they want to do an evaluation of their system, or not their system, they're going to talk to you about that, but or me, insurance. And you were nervous about you making a mistake. Here I am. I'm just, jumbling words. So I'm totally just making mistakes. But you know what?
Well, you're just excited about your big announcement.
Yes, I am. So I got to get to that. But if they want to reach you and come and see you for a policy evaluation, how do they get in touch with you?
We're at 15742 South Bell Road, right by where the old Kmart is. I'm not sure what it's been.
Big R or whatever it is now. Yeah, Farm and Fleet.
We used to call it Field and Spring and, just make funny stuff up. But
the parking lot where they're complaining about what it is all the time that's never open and not stocked.
Exactly. Or our phone number is 708-301-1512. Or DebbieOnBell.com.
Awesome.
Because I'm on Bell.
And you do a great job. I do appreciate the job you do. I mean, you've helped us out more than you know. And Bob, you've been awesome. I mean, just coming by my shop and bringing that over to me, bringing this to my attention, I had to have you on because this is a product that I think that homeowners could definitely benefit from, just to save a lot of aggravation. Even if they don't go with me, I mean, obviously you sell to supply houses. I mean, there's supply houses all over the place that sell them, but
actually Ferguson Supply right in Tinley Park is stocking these things right now too.
Funny you should bring that up. I wonder.
I have to give my plug for my boys at Ferguson. They always support me on new products and things that are innovative.
Ferguson Supply over in Tinley Park. Funny you should bring that up. That brings me to my big announcement. Well, obviously, we're coming up to a year on the show. I have a year anniversary of being on the show, and we have Ferguson Supply is now a title sponsor of the Prepare to Repair show. I am excited about that. A year in, and we've got people that are liking the show and believing in it to really want to be part of it and back it, and I love that.
Yeah, they're a good partner. They obviously supply plumbing products. They do lighting products. They do appliances.
Exactly.
It's a one-stop shop when you're doing any remodeling on your homes, and they've got some great people there. And the new Tinley Park location, we finally, I always say there's Ferguson's all over the Chicago area.
Right.
I always say I finally got one on the south side. I'm very pleased to have one in Tinley Park, and it's a couple miles from my shop, and it's a beautiful location.
And when I had Mac and Justin on, they were on for a two-parter. And again, we talked about it, but I wasn't, really sure if they were gonna do it. But I mean, the fact that they were excited about it and really decided to be part of the show honestly, it feels good as far as on my end. I mean, we're getting somewhere. We're getting the word out. We're accomplishing things. And when I started this, it was to give a lot of information to homeowners so they know what's out there. And without me trying to sell them or anybody trying to sell them, I mean, I just say the name of my company because that's what I do and I sponsor it. But I mean, if they got a plumber that they want to use that they love and they think is great, that's great. Right. Go and use them. I mean, if they're giving you the service and everything that you want, by all means, continue using them. They earned your business. They can get products from you, and they can buy insurance from you. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's all about just getting customers satisfied and people being happy with the product they receive. So I want to thank you guys for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're awesome, Deb. You too, Bob. Thank you. And I also want to thank Mike Marchetti with Black Dog Vinyl Cafe for being on the show. Great place. Go check it out on Route 59 in Plainfield. I also want to thank everybody for listening and Ferguson Supply for being a sponsor to the show. We couldn't do it without any of you. Till next week, we'll have some more information, more fun next week. See you then.